is one of the most prolific and dangerous drug traffickers of all time. And happening right now, the trial for Joaquin Guzman, better known as El Chapo, is getting underway in New York. At this very second, jury selection is beginning. The infamous Mexican drug lord is accused of orchestrating dozens of murders and smuggling in more than 200 tons of cocaine into America. He faces life in prison if convicted. The trial is expected to last up to possibly 3 or 4 months. Opening statements are scheduled to begin next week. Let's go live now to New York, where I'm joined by correspondent Nick Harper. El Chapo is a dangerous man. He ran a worldwide cocaine smuggling empire. Why exactly, though, Nick, is the trial where you are? Why is it going on in Brooklyn?
Well, this is a long time coming. In fact, about a decade, 10 years ago, prosecutors here in Brooklyn filed charges against El Chapo. The big issue for the United States is about the amount of cocaine that he allegedly brought into the United States, some 200 tons during the course of several decades, the 80s and the 90s, cocaine and other drugs coming into the U.S., making its way right across America. And they say that that had a hugely disruptive influence on the U.S., on the drugs trade, and therefore they wanted to bring charges against him. He was extradited to the United States just under 2 years ago, at the beginning of January last year, and since then prosecutors have been building that case, building to this moment where the trial can finally begin.
Nick, he has escaped from maximum security prisons twice before. Are New York authorities concerned perhaps that his network of narcos could try once again to bust him out of prison?
Well, they certainly are. They haven't said that outright, but they've taken a number of steps which would suggest there is a level of concern. Yes, he escaped twice, once infamously in a laundry cart. A second time, he dug a mile-long tunnel from his shower out underneath the prison. So here in New York City, they're housing him in the maximum security jail known as 10 South. That's just across the river in Manhattan, but he's being tried here in Brooklyn. So each time that he comes to court, the New York Police Department are having to shut down some of the busiest roads to transport him here. So there is a high level of concern that he may be able to escape, and that's why he's housed there but being brought here. And each time that he's brought across the river, as well as those road closures, there's a huge police presence stepped up here around the courthouse with armed guards and federal officials driving him across. There is that level of concern that there could potentially be a jailbreak, and they're doing everything that they can to make sure that nothing like that happens again.
Nick, so far, El Chapo has only had to go through that ordeal, the Brooklyn Bridge being shut down only a few times for pretrial hearings. Are police going to do this now every day, twice a day, probably around rush hour for weeks, perhaps months? Is there a different plan perhaps in place so that New York doesn't come to a standstill for this guy?
Well, yes, there is the potential this trial will last between 3 to 4 months. So, yes, twice daily trips across that bridge would be huge disruption logistically, but also from a security point of view. There are some rumours that a special cell has been built underneath this courthouse to house him overnight during the course of the trial itself. That hasn't been confirmed. There is so much secrecy surrounding this trial, not least the fact that the jury selection that's getting underway is all being done in secret. Normally, we would find out who the jurors were. It's done in public. But this time round, it's being done behind closed doors in the judges' chambers, really to keep them anonymous, because as well as the security risk of potentially El Chapo trying to make another escape bid, there is also that security concern around all of the jurors to keep them anonymous, to make sure that the cartel, who has been known in the past to use hitmen to get to the people they want to get rid of, may try and carry out a similar thing. So all precautions being taken here in New York.
Absolutely. Jury selection, as Nick mentioned, underway right now. All of it shrouded in secrecy right now.